By now, we all know that Tony Stark always learns from his mistakes. But here's the thing, not all mistakes are created equal. Some are just bumps in the road. But others? They completely changed the way he built his suits, and even the way he thought. And those are the ones we're diving into today. Out of all the setbacks Tony faced, I've picked 10 of most important ones. The ones that forced him to evolve, upgrade, and become stronger than ever. One of the most obvious ones happened right in the first Iron Man movie when he was captured in Afghanistan. He basically had no way to escape, couldn't contact anyone, and no one could locate him. So the logical way to fix this mistake was to put a GPS tracker on his suit. I don't think he took a long time to learn from this experience. But the first time we saw this mistake corrected was in Spider-Man Homecoming, when Peter was in the ferry trying to be a hero by himself. If Tony didn't added that GPS tracker to Peter's suit, things could have gone really wrong for our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and for everyone inside the ferry. This next one was so subtle that only the most attentive noticed. Before Infinity War, Tony's suit could only fight in an effective way while using both the propulsors of both hands and legs. And as we and Tony saw in Civil War, this wasn't very practical because it made him slower in air combat and with fewer resources to fight than when he was on the ground. So he wasted no time to learn from this mistake. And in Infinity War, in the fight against Thanos on Titan, we can see in his suit multiple flight stabilizers on his back, that way leaving his arms and legs freer to fight however he needs to when he is flying. I'm sure you remember that badass scene from Tony suiting up in Iron Man 2 against Whiplash. And although it was pretty badass, if we were being realistic, in the middle of a fight, it is not very practical to have to be thrown a box with your suit inside it. In the middle of the fight, he needs his suit ready at any moment and not to have to wait for someone to give him the suit. To put an end to this problem, he built the Mark 7 suit and used it for the first time in Avengers. The Mark 7 can basically be controlled remotely via bracelet. Without that evolution, there's no way he could have survived that fall from Avengers Tower in that scene with Loki. Once again, Tony learned. Something that Tony definitely didn't saw coming in the beginning of the MCU was that a god of thunder and a giant green monster would be on the same team as him. In the first Avengers movie, both Thor and Hulk taught him one thing each. Thor taught that wasting electricity was not a smart thing to do, because in the scene where they first meet, Thor blasted a huge charge of lightning against Tony. And although the suit absorbed the energy, Tony eventually realized that just absorbing the electric charge wasn't that useful because he didn't know what to do with it. Tony wasted no time. He started developing the Mark 50 suit, which he used in Avengers Endgame to make up for his mistake, absorbing Thor's lightning attack and redirecting it to Thanos. Hulk, on the other hand, taught him that he can lose control at any moment, and only Thor was able to deal with him in a fight. This led to the creation of the Hulkbuster and a gas that could put Hulk to sleep in Age of Ultron. And I know that you think the Hulkbuster was Tony's main upgrade to deal with Hulk, but no. The Hulkbuster was just a tool in this case. Since Tony knew that the Hulkbuster was only going to be able to hold Hulk back and not defeat him, what he did instead was create a type of gas that would be able to calm Hulk down and put him to sleep. Because that's how he basically managed to put Hulk to sleep. We all know how obsessed Tony was with the idea of a suit of armor around the world. And all started in the first Avengers movie. Until the first Avengers movie, Tony never really had to think about creating an army of robots to help him fight his enemies, because he alone used to be enough. But after the first Avengers and being faced by alien threats that, even with 5 other Avengers, including a god and a super green giant, had a hard time protecting Earth. So, to be prepared for situations like that, and for ones where the other Avengers might not be present when a threat appeared, he decided to create the Iron Legion in Iron Man 3. Still in Iron Man 3, something Tony had to learn the hard way was that he sometimes might not be in the best weather conditions to have his suit discharged, like what happened when he tried to invade Killian's base. He was basically freezing in the middle of the Tennessee snow when the suit shut down. And this is why, in Homecoming, Peter's suit has a heater. As I mentioned earlier, Tony was obsessed with the idea of a shield around the world in Age of Ultron. But that made him forget that there were also other things he should have been worried about, like cities rising to the sky. Because having a suit that lets him use both hands, each doing different things to help with stability in situations like what happened when Sokovia was lifting, is crucial. In that scene, he struggled while drilling. He had to support himself with one hand and drill with the other. Fortunately, he worked on that because in Infinity War we saw this upgrade when he attached himself to the Q ship. And it looks like Iron Man 3 was where Tony made most of his mistakes, because once again in that movie, after he was captured by Aldrich Killian, he found himself defenseless. He had no suit or any kind of equipment to help him escape the situation, very similar to what happened in Afghanistan. So, to avoid being helpless like that again, he created Nanog Gloves. That way, he would always have something at his disposal, no matter the situation he found himself in, allowing him to protect himself in case of unexpected attacks. This next one might seem like just a minor detail, but we all know how much Tony hates losing Cap. After being unable to keep up with Captain America's Quinjet in Civil War, he upgraded his suit with new thrusters. Thrusters strong enough to catch up with any kind of flying vehicle or even spaceships, like we saw in Infinity War. One of the most traumatizing moments for Tony was Rhodey's accident. We all saw how bad and guilty he felt after that. To make sure something like that never happened again to someone he cared about, he started adding parachutes to the suits he built. And we can see that in action with Peter's spider suit in Homecoming. I guess that's what makes Tony different. Even the small mistakes, he fixes them. And even when they seem like just minor details, they end up being really impactful. And because of his trait of always learning from his mistakes, I truly believe that he is still alive in the MCU and might appear this year, even before Avengers Doomsday. The evidence is actually quite overwhelming. So if you don't believe it, I challenge you to watch the video that's popping up right now. I'm 100% sure it will change your mind. I will see you there.